Today's quick review assignment is all about dividing fractions and mixed numbers, and today we are going to use word problems in order to practice that. So this is actually a sample from your activity today. So I'm going to read our problem, that is problem B. Then we're going to fill in the pieces we know, solve the math, and then finally arrive at our answer. So I'm going to head off to the side here and read this to you. I'm going to read it twice like I normally do. The first time I read it, I just picture what's going on, maybe get a little movie running in my head. The second time I read it, I'm going to start marking up the pieces that I think I need to solve the math, and then we will dive into the math together. So this is letter B. A running trail is 6.5 miles long. Lee plans on running this trail over the course of 4 days. How much of the trail will she have to run each day? So I'm picturing this really, really long trail, and because it's so long, it sounds like this girl, Lee, wants to take 4 days to run each part, so that by the end of the 4 days, she wants to run all of it. But she's going to take 1, 2, 3, and 4 days to do so. And I want to figure out how much she runs each day. I'm assuming that since we're dividing, all of her days are going to be in equal pieces. So I'm going to read this again, and I'm going to start underlining the pieces that I think I need to solve the problem. So it says a running trail is 6.5 miles long. So I'm going to underline that. And I think 6.5 gets circled because it's super important. I definitely need that number. Then it says Lee plans on running this trail over the course of 4 days. So it takes her 4 days. I'm going to circle 4. How much of the trail will she have to run each day? So I'm going to zigzag underline how much each day. That's really the question that I'm trying to ask. Now, I have to decide which one of these numbers comes first and which one comes second. To do that, I'm actually going to draw a quick little picture because I think this is another strategy that helps people see what number we're going to start with. So because the trail is 6.5 miles long, I'm just going to draw a line for a trail, and I'm going to label it 6.5. Now, because it's taking 4 days, I want to break this up into 4 pieces. I'm going to cut it in half, and in half again. So now I've broken it up into 4 pieces. And this picture helps me to see that what I really needed to start with for my picture was the trail. And then I could cut it into 4 pieces. So I am going to fill in this first box with 6.5. And the second box is going to be divided by 4. Okay, so now we're going to dive into this math together. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit so that we can now use this division expression to solve for my final answer. So the first thing I always have to do is make everything look like a fraction. So below here or on my scrap paper, however you're going to solve this, we're going to make them both look like fractions. Now, I'm going to start with the 4 because that's easy for me. 4 wholes is the same as saying 4 over 1. Now that looks like a fraction. 6.5 is a little bit harder. One way that people remember this is using one of our tricks, which was Texas. And if I draw a T in Texas, that's really a plus sign, and an X, which is really a multiplication sign, this can help some people remember the steps that we use to solve this. So 6 times 2 means that there are 12 pieces in those 6 holes. So we're going to keep 12 in our head. Then we're going to add 1, and we get 13 pieces all together. And they are halves, so I'm going to keep that denominator. It's the first step. Now that I have both of them as fractions, I'm going to do my keep, change, flip steps. So I like to show my 3 arrows, and I might even want to label them K, C, F. Some people really like to see those steps. So I'm going to keep my first fraction, which means I'm going to keep 13 halves because I know that that represents my 6.5 mile trail, and that trail doesn't change size all of a sudden, so it's always going to be 6.5 miles. So I'm going to keep that first one. Now instead of division, I want to change it to multiplication, and because I changed the operation to multiplying, I also have to use the reciprocal of my next fraction, which means I'm going to flip 4 over 1, so instead it reads as 1 over 4. I'm ready to multiply. Okay, 13 times 1 on the top is 13. 2 times 4 on the bottom is 8. I have to ask myself a question. Is this a regular fraction or is it improper? And because the large number is on top, and that's going to kind of topple the tower over, it's improper. I've got to do some fixing here. Now, dividing is a way to fix an improper fraction, and what this would be is 13 divided by 8. Some people can do this in their head. If you can't, you're going to set up a division box and do 13 divided by 8 out the long way. So let's divide and see what we get for an answer, and it potentially has a remainder. 8 goes into 13 only one time, so I'm going to put a 1. That's 8. I'm going to subtract and get a remainder of 5. So this is my work off to the side. Now I'm going to make this look like a mixed number. So this is 1. So we had 1 whole. Remainder of 5 means 5 pieces. And if I look back just one step, I see that those are the sizes of 8s. My final question that I'm going to ask myself is, can I simplify this, or is it finished? So I'm going to look at 5 and 8 and see if they have any math facts in common. The only math fact that I think 5 and 8 share is a 1, which tells me I'm actually already simplified. Now, if they were both even and I could maybe cut them in half, I'd maybe have some simplifying to do. But 5 and 8 don't share any factors other than 1. I'm going to circle my final answer. And then that is the answer that I would put in the box on my activity. So this hopefully was a great reminder about how to divide fractions and mixed numbers using the steps that we've learned. If you find that you want to pause and rewind this, please do that. The other thing I'm going to remind you to do is take a look at your notebook or look back at one of our previous videos if you want to see some more samples. I would also like to tell those of you who watched the video that our code word of the day is fall.